Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig. Hello Reza, how are you?
Hiya Craig, how are you?
I'm fine. Good week?
Yeah, fine.
Good.
You?
Fantastic. Huge week. Very, very nice. Let's begin this week with Grammatica. And what do you have for us this week, Reza?
Well, I thought we could talk about the past simple. Since you asked me, good week, I could ask you, did you visit your mum like you said you would?
I did. I went last Wednesday.
How was she?
Very well, thanks. Yep, she's doing okay.
And how was the rest of the family?
Funnily enough, we had some people visiting from the UK. Some cousins came over. And
When did they arrive?
They came last Friday. They stayed for the weekend, and I saw them just for one day.
Where did you take them?
We went to a restaurant. We had lunch. I showed them Moraida, which is where my parents live. A very nice town on the coast of Spain. And we spent some time talking about the family and old times.
Did they spend some time on the beach?
No, they didn't have time for the beach, and it wasn't beach weather, to be honest.
Did they get the chance to practice some Spanish?
No, because they were with me and my parents, who don't speak Spanish, so they don't speak Spanish. They live in London, so they just came to see the family.
Didn't your dad once try to learn Spanish years ago?
Years ago, when he first came here, but he gave up. He couldn't learn Spanish.
When did your parents first settle here?
About 15 or 16 years ago.
Wow. And before that, they lived in London, didn't they?
That's right. They lived in the centre of London before they came here. And when I grew up, they lived in a suburb of London. So we lived just on the edge, on the outskirts of the city.
Did you enjoy life there? Did you enjoy life in London?
Yeah, I did. I had a very good childhood. I enjoyed growing up in the suburbs, and it was good.
Why did your parents decide to come to Spain?
Because my sister wanted to move house, and she saw that she couldn't afford to buy a nice house in a nice area of London. She didn't have the money to buy a nice house. But in Spain, back in the 90s, you could get a nice house for a good price. So when my parents retired, she came to Spain with my parents and they bought a house together.
She could get a house for a good price today as well in Spain. The market went up, then it crashed, and houses are cheaper now than they were 4 years ago, I'd say.
That's right.
Do you remember when my brother came to visit a few months ago?
Yes.
And you met him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice guy.
Yeah? Being on holiday, he did drink quite a lot though, didn't he? You remember?
He liked his beer.
He made a bit of a fool of himself.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I don't think he made a fool of himself. No hacía el tonto.
Oh, well, I'm glad you say that, because he's going to come back again for a little visit soon.
Fantastic. When's he coming?
In a couple of weeks, and he wants to visit you.
Okay, with pleasure. He can stay here if he likes. We've got a sofa bed for him. If you want to kick him out, if you want some time by yourself, just tell him to come here.
I said I'll take him down to the Malvarosa, and maybe he can see you like he did last time.
With pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Craig, I guess you've noticed we've been using a lot of past simple verbs there.
Yes, you asked me about the past. You asked me about living in London in the past. You asked me about my cousin's visit, which was last week. Also the past. Todo en el pasado.
Past simple, yeah. Things like you lived in London. Lived. Yeah. Bebiste. Or it could also be bebías. I think there's two ways to say it in Spanish, but there's only one way in English. In Spanish, it depends, but in English, it's a bit simpler. So past simple is for things like when you lived in London years ago. It's finished. Now you don't live in London. It's over. that was in the past.
And
It's not now.
there's no connection to now. It's something that happened in the past.
Yep.
No hay conexión ahora.
No connection with now. Soon we'll be talking about that. That would be the present perfect, but we'll talk about that another day. But for now, if something happened in the past and it's over and it's not really connected with now, that's past simple. And as a lot of the listeners probably know, to make a question in the past simple, it's easy. Just add did.
Did.
Where did you live? ¿Dónde vivías? ¿Dónde viviste? When did they arrive? ¿Cuándo llegaron? Things like that.
But it's important to remember that when you speak about the past with the verb I lived, when you make the question with did, the verb changes.
Right. Use the infinitive form of the verb without to. So you say, where did you live? Not lived. Just where did you live?
I lived in London. Where did you live before you came to Spain?
I lived in Belfast.
Right.
Now, another thing, I'm sure the listeners know, but just to remind them, that tricky verb to be, as ever, it has to be a bit different. So with the verb to be, with the past simple, just like the present simple, as we saw a few weeks ago, don't use did. Just use the verb to be in the past. So, for example, I could ask you, Craig, where were you born?
I was born in London. Mm-hmm. Where were you born?
I was born in a place called Lisburn, near Belfast.
I thought you were going to say Portugal.
Yes, people have said that before. I've got a funny story about that, but I'll tell you that another day, about a misunderstanding. Were you a happy child?
Yes, I was. My parents say I was a bad child, a naughty child, a horrible child.
I can't believe
Seriously.
that. I can't believe it.
They have stories, but I was happy. I was happy.
Mm-hmm. So, there we go. There's a couple of examples in the past simple with to be. Where were you born? Were you a happy child? There's no did with the verb to be. Also, if you were listening closely, maybe you noticed that Craig used the word could. Could is also past simple. It's the past simple of the verb can. And you probably know that can is an irregular verb. Can. We don't add ed. We say could for the past.
A modal verb.
Can. Modal verb. Modal verbs are tricky. So the past of can is could. Let's see. Craig, when you were young, could you run fast?
No, I was quite a fat child, so I couldn't run very fast.
And now, can you run fast?
No, now I'm old and fat, so I definitely can't run very fast.
Are you even slower now than before?
I'm definitely slower now.
So you were a little bit faster before?
I was a little bit faster.
Wow, that's life. That happens to all of us, doesn't it?
When you lived in Belfast, could you speak Spanish?
No, I didn't speak a word of Spanish until I arrived in Spain in, what year was it? 1994. Can you believe it? Yep, I arrived in Cáceres in 1994 without a word of Spanish, and I picked it up. That means I learned it on the streets and speaking to people. I didn't even go to classes.
Spanish?
Yep, with an extremeño accent. And the Spanish listeners will know what that means. Mm-hmm. It's a very peculiar accent.
So to summarize then, with the past simple, use did to make questions, and remember to change the verb to the infinitive without to.
Yep.
And you cannot use did with the verb to be. So you cannot say did you are, or did you is, or did you am.
Mm-hmm. Also, no did with the modal verbs. So we used can, the past of can was could. So I asked you, could you run faster? There's no did there.
Moving on, let's move on to pronunciation. And this episode, I'd like to look at the sound or H.
Sorry, Craig, are you having breathing problems?
Just cleaning my glasses, which is interesting because Spanish speakers, when there's a word with H at the beginning, for example, hello, they tend to say the sound from the throat, desde la garganta. So it sounds like
Oh, yes, that's funny.
Are you familiar with that, Reza?
Oh, yes.
Hello, how are you? The typical Spanish
It's a very Spanish thing.
Now listen, if you take off your glasses and if you're not wearing glasses, imagine you're wearing glasses. Quitas las gafas y limpias las gafas así. That's the sound you need with most words beginning with H. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Are you happy?
Yes, I am.
Harry Potter. All these words beginning with H. Have a cup of tea. Have a shower. Have a beer. Hello. Hello, I'm Henry. I'm Henry and I'm happy. I'm a hairdresser. I'm Henry, the happy hairdresser. So practice that at home and repeat many times so that you do not say because it's not very nice to English ears. I'm from Helsinki. I'm a happy hairdresser from Helsinki. How are you? Practice the H sound.
Well, if you're a happy hairdresser from Helsinki, Craig, I guess you would laugh. Ha ha ha.
Ha ha ha.
Not ha ha ha.
No.
That would sound like you've got a bad throat to an English speaker.
But that's interesting because when Spanish people chatear or whatsiapiar or whatever it is, they put jota a, which is h, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But in English, H-A. Ha ha ha.
Ha ha ha. Practice at home. Next, we move on to our phrasal verb. What's our phrasal verb for this episode, Reza?
Well, the phrasal verb for today is get on. Get on, a very common phrasal verb. Well, I'll tell you what, Craig, I've got a little list here to remind me. Let's get on with the podcast with phrasal verbs. Did you hear that? Let's get on with the podcast.
So get on can mean continuar?
Continue without pausing, without a break. So let's get on with the podcast. Get on, continue, continuar. With the phrasal verb get on. Here's another one. Craig, I think your sister's very nice. Do you get on with your sister?
We get on well. When I lived in England, past simple, we didn't get on very well. But when she got married, when she left the house, and I got her room, the bigger room in the house, her bedroom, then we started to get on well.
To get on well. To have a good relationship. Get on. Llevarse bien con alguien.
Do you get on with all your family?
Yes, I get on well with my sister and both brothers.
Although you can get on badly with somebody. So you can get on well, get on badly.
That's a good point. Yes. If you just say, I get on with someone, the meaning is positive. So, llevarse bien. But you can say, I get on badly with someone. And that specifically means then it's negative. So if you don't add a negative word like badly or terribly or horribly, then we assume it's a positive relationship.
Entonces, si no dices badly, pensamos que está
La relación
bien,
es buena.
positivo.
Sí. If I say to you, do you get on with your sister? And you say yes, that means you have a good relationship. If I don't add a word like, do you get on badly with your sister? If I don't add this word badly, we suppose I mean well.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. Now, Craig, you've got a new timetable. It's October, new academic year. How are you getting on with your new timetable?
It's quite difficult because I'm now teaching in the middle of the day at lunchtime, and before I taught in the evenings. So I'm having a few problems getting on with the new time.
Mm-hmm. Getting on with it, yes. Coping, progressing, managing.
Manejando.
Could say, ¿cómo lo estás manejando? O ¿cómo lo llevas?
Lo llevo bien.
Right.
I'm getting on with it, yeah.
So there's another meaning of get on. Now, Craig, as per usual, I nearly didn't arrive here on time today. You know, the first bus that stopped in my neighborhood was full. So the driver wouldn't let me get on. He said there was no space. He said I couldn't get on. I couldn't get on the bus.
So get on also means subir.
Subir.
Subir al autobús.
Al autobús. Well, there's a good point. Subir al autobús. Get on the bus. Get on the train. Get on the plane. Get on the ship. Get on a horse. Get on a bike.
Get on a camel.
get on a camel, any animal, but not a car.
Why is that? Why do we say get in a car?
I have no idea. But it's important that learners don't forget it. Get in a car. Get in a taxi, because a taxi's a car. But get on most other forms of transport.
I have a theory.
Tell me.
Maybe because a car and a taxi, they are lower vehicles, son más bajos. Hay sentido de entrar, get in and get out. Pero los trenes, autobuses, aviones son más altos. So you get on, subes, maybe. I don't know.
Could be. Yeah, that's a good theory. Who knows?
It's a good way to remember. So if it's high, like a horse or a camel or a motorbike, you get on it. And if it's lower, like a car or a taxi, you get in and get out of it.
Hey, that's a good way to remember. Well, that's quite a few meanings of get on. That'll do for now.
Okay, moving on to my collocations or colocarse con Craig. And you said to me, Craig...
Sorry, I'm laughing, listeners. Colocarse con
it's
Craig.
Not a good idea to say colocarse con Craig. And I didn't know that, well, what could it mean in Spanish? Colocarse con Craig.
Well, there's a double meaning. As far as I know, in Spanish slang, colloquial Spanish, colocarse is to get high, taking drugs or alcohol or something. Colocarse, tomar droga o estupefacientes para que te suba la cabeza. Colocarse.
Well, that's not what we're going to do in this episode.
In English, it doesn't have that meaning.
So now I've learned something today, so maybe we'll change this part of the podcast to Vocabulary Corner, which I think is probably better. So we're not going to colocarse con Craig, it's Vocabulary Corner. And this episode, I'd like to look at the verb take. Because take can collocate or go together with many different words. And on the same idea of phrasal verbs, take care of is a phrasal verb which means...
Take care of, cuidar, cuidar a alguien.
Also similar to look after. So you can look after someone, you can take care of someone. The verb proud, which is orgulloso in Spanish, is a noun. No, it's an adjective. What's the noun? The noun is pride. So take can go together with pride. You can take pride in something. You can take pride in your work. You can take pride in your appearance. You can take pride in your wonderful English.
Or like both our mothers, if the listeners remember, take pride in their houses.
And if they take pride in their houses, they are very house proud. Of course you remember. Another collocation with take is to take a joke. Some people are good at taking a joke, which means they have a good sense of humour. They can laugh at themselves.
Craig, you mean like take the mickey?
You could take the mickey, yeah. How would you explain take the mickey in Spanish?
Tomar el pelo.
Tomar el pelo. Aburrirse de alguien? No. There is the expression.
Tomar el pelo o burlarse.
Burlarse,
that's it. Burlarse de alguien, tomar el pelo.
Burlarse de alguien.
Take the mickey. Some people might know there's a more colourful version of take the mickey, but we can't say that word because it's a little bit rude.
Begins with P. To be taken to hospital. Llevar. The idea of using take as llevar. So you can take someone to school, you can take someone to work, llevarlo en el coche. You can take someone to a hospital, take someone to the shops. And to take pity on someone. Pity is pena. So if you take pity on a person, you feel sorry for them. I take pity on my neighbour because he's not very well.
Craig, can I just interrupt you a minute? You mentioned there, take someone in your car. Do you remember a week or two ago, you took me to the shops in your very nice car?
Yes.
To look for laptops.
That's right.
I really enjoyed that journey because... I really enjoyed that trip in your car because In case the listeners don't know, Craig has a very sporty little Mazda. It's lovely. And he took me to the shops, and I took great pleasure in sitting there posing in that car with the roof down. It was a sunny day. Yeah, I took pleasure in that.
So you can take pleasure in something. You take pleasure in something agradable. And you can also take advice. You can take advice from somebody. You can give advice to somebody and take advice from somebody.
Oh, really? How about I give my top tip? My tip for today is very simple. From time to time, why not use a thesaurus? Thesaurus. You might not know that word. I'll spell it for you. Thesaurus. A thesaurus. A thesaurus is not a dictionary. It looks a bit like a dictionary, but it isn't. It does not define words like a dictionary. A thesaurus simply has synonyms, similar words. So the thing you can do with a thesaurus that a dictionary can't do is increase your range of vocabulary, your range. A dictionary helps you understand a word. A thesaurus doesn't. It just gives you more options.
Can you give us an example?
Yes. Let's see. I have a little thesaurus here. Let's just pick a word at random. Let's see. The word ill. I-double-L. I'm sure most of the listeners know that word. So they Enferma, exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised if most listeners know the word sick. Ill means sick, okay? But did they know, I'm looking at my thesaurus here, did they know the word ailing, infirm, off color, queasy, unwell? Did they know those words? Perhaps not. There are more. I could go on, but I won't.
And the example you gave me before we started recording of big.
Big.
Most beginners, principiantes, know the word big.
Big, grande.
But there are more words that you could find in a thesaurus to mean big.
Yeah. Without even looking, I'm sure between the pair of us we could say loads. Big, huge.
Enormous.
Giant.
Big.
You said that.
I couldn't think of one.
Enormous, vast.
Did you say gigantic?
Didn't say gigantic. Titanic. Yes, Titanic comes from the ship, but it's been accepted now as an adjective in English to mean very big. Awesome can mean big. There are loads. If you looked up the word big in a thesaurus, you would find a huge list of words.
And there's also a very useful thesaurus that is free online at thesaurus.com. So there's dictionary.com, which is a free dictionary online, and there's thesaurus.com, which you can access on your computer and on your mobile phone.
Yeah. Just one final thing to add about that. Thesaurus is a useful thing to have in class or just when you're at home and you're studying. It's particularly useful for writing when you've got more time to think about your English, when you want to impress with your range. So especially for writing, a thesaurus is great for using an impressive range of vocabulary so you don't always repeat the same words.
That's a very good tip. So thank you very much, Reza. And we'll finish there. Thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you to Reza for helping me do this podcast. And remember, you can look at the show notes, las notas de este episodio, at mencioningles.libsyn, libsyn.com. That's mencioningles.libsyn.com. You can read the show notes from this episode and look at some useful links to other places. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later, licensed by Creative Commons under a BY-NC license at ccmixter.org. Si quieres mandarnos un comentario sobre este podcast o una pregunta sobre la gramática, la pronunciación o el vocabulario de inglés, mándanos un email a mansionteachers@yahoo.es.